EntreCast.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. This is another special Wednesday morning episode brought to you by our new sponsor, Jeremy Clevenger Fitness, who we featured on episode 145. If you haven't heard that episode yet, I encourage you to go back and take a listen. I have another great show lined up for you today, but before we get started, I just want to remind you to take a look at the leadership books on my website. I've written 3 leadership books, and I recommend you start with Eye of the Watch first. It's filled with 22 short stories that will help you become a leader worth following. It's a quick read, and most people finish it in less than 3 hours. It's also available in Kindle and on Audible, so you can listen in your car or while working out, and a Spanish version is also in the works. So check out all my books either on Amazon or on my website, johnsrennie.com. I also wanted to mention that the Deep Leadership Podcast is now ranked in the top 2.5% most popular shows out of 3 million podcasts globally, according to Listen Score. We're also closing in on the top 100 management shows in the United States. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening in every week and sharing these episodes with your friends. You have helped this podcast grow into a top-performing show, so thank you very much. Well, that is it. Today we're going to be talking about what it takes for new managers to become impactful leaders. My guest is Stefan Avramtchev. Stefan coaches newly promoted managers to help them successfully navigate in their new roles. He helps them quickly become effective leaders. This is such an important topic, and I'm honored to have Stefan join us on this episode. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Stefan Avramtchev. Stefan is a transformation and leadership coach with over 25 years of work experience, starting from software engineering, going through to business, entrepreneurship, and now arriving at coaching. Now, having been through the struggles of being a new manager firsthand, he now coaches newly promoted leaders to successfully navigate through the first and often most difficult times in their management careers. And I am excited to have him on the show to talk about what it takes for a new manager to become an impactful leader. So, Stefan, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. I've been following you for a while, and I'm honored to be finally with you. So I really appreciate your invitation today.
Yeah, I am excited. We talked before, and I just really love what you're doing, and I think it's so important, and especially when it comes to helping new leaders get up to speed. So that's what I want to talk about today. But first, let's start off with, how did you arrive at coaching? A little bit about your career, how you arrived at coaching, and why you have this passion to help coach new managers.
Well, it's been a long journey for me already. Some 25 years ago, I started work, and even before that, I fell in love with computers and programming. That was in school, and that love persisted. So eventually, I got my software engineering degree, and I started working in the industry as a software developer, to realize that software development actually is quite a different thing from simple software engineering. And I realized that software is actually made by great teams, and it's a collective effort, as opposed to heroism from individuals. So to me was a discovery that the fact that the technical skills were rarely the reason for failures. The challenge was with people, with the ways of working, with processes. The challenge was in leadership. And that's how I got drawn into leadership and moved gradually from engineering to management. I went to business school as well to add the missing knowledge about business and leadership and management. So eventually I got drawn by coaching. It was a sort of calling that I felt, because I was seeing more and more on a daily basis the reality, the struggles of the young managers. I've seen the struggles of all managers, but the ones that were just promoted, they were having a big problem at the transition. So I realized that this is what I need to do, and this is the great opportunity, not only for the enterprises, not only for the economy, but for the society at large, if you will, because these guys have a direct impact not only on performance, but also on loyalty, on satisfaction, on growth and development. So for me, it was clear that this is what I wanted to do. So that's where I'm at.
That's fantastic. I do think you're right. I do think if we can get new leaders up to speed quicker, they can have a greater impact on the organization and the people that work for them. So I think it's a noble effort. It's a great place to be focusing on coaching, and it's much needed today. And one of the things I was going to ask you, and you talk about this too, you say part of the problem is that these new managers are not really supported during their transition. So talk a little bit about what some of the problems that new managers face, just in terms of getting support from the companies that promote them.
Yeah, well, a few things are contributing in a big way to the present situation of inadequate support for these young leaders. First of all, is the context. It very much depends on the industry and on the organization they're working in. If that organization is bureaucratic, if it's a hostile place, toxic place with unfriendly people and relationships, then that's going to be what these new managers are going to try to master and trying to replicate. So that's one thing. Another thing is their manager. Very often, I've seen their manager being in a struggle of their own, where they are also probably just promoted to the new managerial level, trying to learn the ropes of that role and figure out what they need to do. So they have received little support themselves in the past, so now they continue by not really paying attention to their subordinates. And this is down to ignorance or maybe also incompetence at the given level of management. So that's another big component. And ultimately, the support that HR delivers to the young managers is, for me, a product of a misconception, because it goes as far as teaching and content delivery is concerned, but really stops short of adding a practical element of that support. So these young managers, they're not receiving coaching. They receive knowledge, information, awareness, but they don't get to practice what they have learned. So those are the three major things I want to mention in terms of what really contributes to that situation with the young managers.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think at best you might get, a company saying, well, read this book or watch this video or maybe go to a training session. So these are like one-time events. But what they're missing, and what I've found to the best way to become a great leader is to have some level of coaching or mentoring, someone that is, more senior, that has been down the path to help that individual make the transition. And like you said, we do these one-time events, and we say, hey, go read this book or watch this video or go to this training. And now you're a leader, magically you're your leader, but that's not how it works. That's not how you learn how to play guitar. You can't just read a book, watch a video, go to training. You have to practice.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and you have to practice often with a mentor, with a teacher, with somebody that knows how to, because leadership skills are skills just like any other skills. And you have to learn them, and you have to practice them under someone more senior. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head, and that's why coaching is so critical, right?
Yeah, and practicing the new knowledge, turning into skill, is precluded from the manager of that young manager themselves, because they rarely create space for the new manager to start practicing the new knowledge. They rarely create demand and expectation that knowledge to be practiced, and that's how they contribute in conjunction with the programs delivered by HR being simply theoretical.
Yeah, I see that a lot. Absolutely. So what do you think makes it this transitions to management so difficult for most managers? Because I think you end up having usually it's a great individual contributor, and someone notices them based on their individual contributors, their efforts. They're a good engineer, they're a good salesman, they're a good production supervisor or something like that, and then they get promoted to management. And so you take somebody and you make from an individual contributor and you make them manager, you give them a manager title. Why is there why is that transition so difficult?
Well, I think the answer is partly in the question itself. First of all, they are individual contributors, and as such, they are unaware of what the transition actually entails. They're unaware that the transition entails transformation, and also they don't know what that transformation requires. So they are really unprepared and taken by surprise at the new level. So after that, the first thing that they don't know, and that's why they're lacking, is the new mindset that they need to be sporting. So the wrong mindset manifests in many ways. But for example, one way is that they are having an ego problem very often. As the most proficient and experienced and the best of their teams, they were promoted to managers. And now, from being on the top of the food chain, if I can say it so, now they have to move to the bottom of the food chain in the managerial ladder. So that's very, very tough, and it evokes a ego response inevitably. So that's one thing that plays a number. Another thing is, you said it yourself, they are still functioning from the individual contributor mindset, and they haven't adopted the achieving through others value system.
Yes,
that's what makes the transition very difficult and actually not working. And ultimately, abandoning what you know already is not only painful for the ego, but actually creates insecurity. You got to go to square one from the best one. You got to go to the one that's from starting from beginning. So not an easy one. And for that, they need space. They need time. They need encouragement. They need to be allowed to fail, etc., etc. Yeah. So that's for sure. And ultimately, there is one skill, John, that is missing. Engineers are known to be not the best, not with the best EQ score, the emotional intelligence. And when that's the case, that would not help them. Actually, that would stop them from being empathetic, managing the relationship with their people, which will prevent them from making good bonds. And from there is no trust, and nothing really happens in terms of positive leadership. So that's indeed what I think makes the transition difficult for them. Well, there are many things that are difficult, but I think these are sticking out in my experience as the ones that create most and are source of the most of the trouble for these young managers.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, when you're rewarded your whole life on doing, you're being a great doer, and now you're told, no, it's not your doing, it's your leading through others or getting things done through others. Yeah. And you say, well, so a lot of these new managers go back to their comfort zone. They'll shut their door and they'll work on engineering drawings, which they're good at and they're comfortable with, versus going to okay, well, how am I going to get the most out of my team? Thinking that way. They're more they slip back into what they're comfortable with, because leading people is it's outside their comfort zone. It's something they haven't done in their career. It's the first time. So you're right. So they default back to what they've been rewarded for their whole careers, and if you don't help them with that transition, they could get stuck with being either a doer or a micromanager, like controlling every little aspect of it, because that's how they were rewarded throughout their careers: control and getting everything done, instead of giving people their personal freedoms to accomplish great things. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you say there's ways to help people move more swiftly in that transition, so they're able to move from like a new manager into an effective leader more quickly. What are some of those of things that will help new leaders make that transition?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned, work on your mindset. It's a personal development endeavor, this transition to management. So they need to embrace authenticity and embrace the fact that they're vulnerable. As you said yourself, they have to be operating at the outskirts of their competence. They have to be operating at the border of what they can solve. They have to be welcoming tough questions and questions that they don't have the answer necessarily. I know managers need to be competent, but I'm much more interested to see how they function and how they react and what do they do in the face of challenge, in the face of adversity, in the face of tough question that they cannot answer. So that's really important, and that's what creates also the psychological safety for the team, showing that it can be tough sometimes, but we are a team and we will learn, we'll try, we'll fail, we'll pick the lessons, and we'll expand the perimeter of our capability one step further. So that's one thing they need to do, to adopt a beginner mindset, to allow the whole team to learn and to instill a psychological safety around failure.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Leadership skills are like any other skills. You need to practice them to get better at them. Best-selling leadership author John S. Rennie knows this. That's why he's written a new book called You Have the Watch. It's a guided journal for leaders designed to take you through an entire year of leadership training. By the end of the year, you will master 50 of the most important leadership skills. If you want to have a greater impact on the results and people in your organization, go to youhavethewatch.com and pick up your copy today.
This podcast is brought to you by Jeremy Clevenger Fitness. As a high-performing leader, you know that leadership isn't about telling people what to do, it's about leading by example. And for most people, the one area they are lacking when it comes to leading by example is their health and fitness. By improving your health and fitness, every other area of your life improves. But how do you get and stay fit as a busy leader? Well, you do what you've always done. You hire the best person for the job. Now, don't struggle on your own. Put Jeremy Clevenger on your team. Jeremy will work with you to help take your physique, mindset, nutritional habits, and more to the next level with his step-by-step, all-inclusive coaching program. Now, I've worked with Jeremy for the past year, and I'm in the best shape of my life. So if you want to step up your game, reach out to Jeremy at jeremyclevengerfitness.com to find out more and get your initial consultation scheduled with him today. This episode is brought to you by the Fraternity of Excellence. The Fraternity of Excellence is an online and real-world community for men who are looking to improve in all areas of their lives. The men of FOE are working together to become better husbands, fathers, and leaders at work and in their communities. They live by a simple philosophy: as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Now, I've been a member for more than 3 years, and for me, I finally found a brotherhood of men that I was missing from my time in the military. Now, I love being around guys who are dedicated to becoming a better version of themselves. So if you're interested in becoming a man of excellence as well, go to fraternityofexcellence.com, or you can reach out directly to me to learn more.
Yeah, the second thing I want to mention is the adoption of that achieving through others value system. One day they have to wake up, and in the morning they need to start worrying more about their managerial activities rather than their technical activities. That's the moment when they have moved across to the leadership ground, basically. So that's important. They must use delegation as a tool for success. They need to understand that delegation is the way for them to grow, the way for their people to grow and achieve. And actually, the question at every next level of managerial promotion is, now, what do I keep for myself and what do I delegate? So this is a very important question. You said yourself in your books, it's about goals and about people that are going to be inspired and influenced to move towards these goals. So they need to make plans, goals and plans how to achieve these goals, and they need to measure what they are doing so that they can learn. And ultimately, I would advise them to start coaching. Whether they will receive coaching from their manager, that's a question. Their manager may not be susceptible to coaching, and they may not want to do that. But and they can seek coaching and from another external coach, a leadership coach, for example. But ultimately, I would advise them to, and I'm encouraging them in my program to start coaching themselves.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that. I think of what you said, and when you first started talking about this, is this idea of being authentic. And when you're a new manager, if you walk into the room and say, well, I'm in charge, I'm going to make all decisions, this is the way it's going to go, then you've instantly turned off your team, right? They're like, oh, okay, well, Rennie thinks he knows it all just because he has a manager's title right now. And I remember when I first showed up to the USS Tennessee as a young officer, and I met my team, every one of those men were far more capable than me, far more experienced than me, older than me, and I was the boss. And it taught me right then and there that I had to be humble, I had to listen, I had to be curious and ask a lot of questions. Yeah. And the other thing is I had to learn as much as I could, as quickly as I could, so that I could be a competent leader for these very seasoned professionals. So I think you're right. Don't pretend that you're an expert when you show up on day one as a leader. It's okay to say, I don't know, and to rely on your experts for their ideas and their opinions and their thoughts. So utilize your team. Again, it's about getting things done through others, not you trying to do it all yourself.
Yeah, even if you know the answer, I think is great if you don't speak up and ask the team for the answer, because you're growing them that way. It's very similar to how we teach and how we grow our kids. We want to try them. We want to give them the opportunity to figure it out themselves. Otherwise, we're kind of robbing them of the chance to find the answer for themselves, and they may find even a better answer than the one we think is right. So that's why I would encourage the leaders to ask questions. I think when you sit around the table and watch for a while, you figure out that the leader is the one who's asking the questions, not the one who's providing the answers.
Yes, I love that. I have that. I think I have it in some of my books that leadership is not about you telling people what to do. It's not about having all the answers. It's about having the right questions and being smart enough to shut up and listen to the answers. That's
deep.
I can tell you numerous times in my career that the right question made a difference in my organization and taking us to the next level. And it wasn't about my knowledge or my experience or my leadership skills. It was just asking the right question and getting people to think differently about a problem. And then suddenly you have a solution you never thought of before. I'm not going to come up with that. But if I have a team of 12 people who are experts and I ask the right question, we're going to get the answer. It's gonna come out, and it has every time in my career. And I'm talking 33 years of doing this. I have not had to have the answers. I just had to have the right questions and be willing to be humble enough to listen to the answers.
And sometimes it is, not sometimes, I think very often, almost all the times, it is not so important whether the result or the answer is the best one. It's more important that it's coming from the team.
Yes.
Because if it comes from you, it may be the best result, but in business language, it is called inappropriate result because it comes from the wrong person or from the wrong body. That's why it's going to be appropriate result first, and then it will get better and better every time if it's not the best yet.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% because there's buy-in, right? When somebody gets to have their voice and then their idea becomes implemented, they're bought into that solution instead of it just came from down on high. It's like, oh, that's my idea and the boss listened to me and we're going to do it. That's so exciting. I have a voice in this company.
And they will push much harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the decision what to do was theirs, when the idea was theirs.
Yeah. And by the way, for people listening in, that's what makes leadership easy. When you do things like that, you're not pushing the rope. You're not trying to push a rope. You're allowing people to pull you along. And I think that's some of the secrets of great leaders is getting people excited about something and their ideas and implementing their own ideas. And you're just there as a facilitator to make sure things work. And so you don't have to have all the answers. You got to have good questions, be willing to listen and be able to say, yes, let's do it. And I think leaders that do that are going to have far better results than ones that try to do it all themselves.
Yeah, they're enablers for their team. Make sure the team is enabled and all impediments are kind of taken care of and the team is future-proof. Make sure they are performing in a sustainable manner. You're hiring the right additions to the team. So it's enough job. It's enough work for a full-time job already.
Yes, it is.
You don't need to do more.
Yeah, that's so true. So how, if you just look at it, your experience with coaching and just, what you've seen, how does coaching make a difference for these young leaders? If they have a mentor or coach, someone they're working with, that's especially if it's outside their line of, their direct boss, how does coaching help these young leaders?
Well, that's a great question. And the coaching helps everybody and would help all leaders, not only these young leaders, mainly because of what we just said a moment ago, Joe. You said yourself, leadership is about asking questions and listening deep. Well, this is what coaching is.
Yes.
It's deep listening and asking questions. All right. So that's why. So it will help them move from the theoretical and from the knowledge place to the skill place, where they try and learn and get better and build skills and actually practice what they know. And also that actually coaching is a true servant leadership in action, because you are in a supportive alliance with your subordinates when you're doing so, and you're developing them, and you're mastering the skill of listening and asking questions, and not robbing them of the chance to develop, to win, and to achieve, but actually provoking thinking and ownership.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know for me, and when I first had my first manufacturing plant, there was one person in the plant. So I had a manufacturing plant. I was the general manager. I was the senior guy on site, but there was one guy in that plant that didn't work for me. He worked in sales, but he just happened to live in the town, so he had an office. But he was at my level, so we were at the same seniority level. But he became my adopted coach. So he became the person that I would go to. He was the only person in this building that didn't report to me. So I had an opportunity to have, I would go in there, shut the door, and just ask. I would just talk to him about the challenges that I was having, the things that I ran into that were possibly hurdles towards getting where I wanted to get done. And it was great to just have another person to listen to me, ask me questions, make me think differently about it. Someone that was not in my chain of command. And I needed that to help me get clarity of thought to go back out there and do the right thing. So I really do encourage young leaders, if you don't have a coach, or if you don't have a mentor, or if you don't have someone you can confide in, go find that person soon, because that's going to help you get through those early jitters, those fears, those, what am I doing? How am I going to get out of this situation? You need to have another person in your life that you can talk to. So, yeah, I do think that coaching is a big part of that.
Absolutely. That was a great addition. That's indeed what coaching also provides, is a reflection, a different angle, seeing yourself from a different angle.
Seeing the things. You can't see, what do they say? You can't see the forest through the trees. You're worried about the one tree. And sometimes a coach can just say, oh, wait, there's a whole forest here. We've got, you're fixated on something that's not that important. You need to look over here. And you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So sometimes having a person there that you can bounce ideas off of, you're going to get a wider view of the business and of the problem. So I do highly encourage it. It certainly worked for me in my career, for sure.
And a person that believes in you more than you believe in you in this very moment is helping you to pick yourself up and continue.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned one thing in your last comments that you said servant leadership. So why do you think servant leadership is so important?
Well, because it provokes thinking. It invites thinking, requires thinking, and to me this is very important. To me it's an ultimate corporate sin to separate thinking from doing. It's just recipe for disaster. I think there is no workplace where thinking is not required and invited. Even in places where people are following orders, like in the army, they still operate within a very precise operating envelope. And within that boundaries, not only thinking is required, but ownership and new ideas and leadership. So I think servant leadership is that's why it works, because it provokes thinking. It allows space for development. It basically puts the leader and the subordinate in a partnership for growth and development. It appreciates the person, and as I said a moment ago, it induces ownership from the subordinate. So that's, to me, also increases motivation and ultimately allows us to really influence people, and to just influence them, not be directive and not be bossy, but from a position of influence to exercise leadership.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that you mentioned it earlier. The idea that the boss sort of becomes, if you're doing servant leadership right, you're removing obstacles. You're helping resolve conflicts, removing obstacles. You're getting your people the tools they need, the resources they need. You're hiring the right people. But you're sort of getting out of the way and making sure that they have what they need to be successful.
Yeah.
You're in a support role in a way to your team. You're there as a supportive role to make sure they have what they need to be successful. Because if they're successful, ultimately you're successful, the business is successful, and the enterprise does well.
Yep.
But it's all about that idea of, it's not you serve me. It's not the people serving the leader. It's the leader serving the people, making sure they have what they need to be successful. And a lot of leaders get that backwards. And so that's why I think, like you say, servant leadership is so critical, because it puts the order in the right place.
Yep. They're paid for to create a winning team. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been fantastic, and I want to give you a chance. So how can people find out more about you and the coaching programs you offer?
I created a coaching program for newly promoted managers. It's a 4-month coaching program with 9 modules in it, with more than 15 one-on-one coaching session. It's a very practical, very also personalizable, because everyone has a different strengths and feels the pain differently. So it's very personalizable, but ultimately it's results oriented. These guys, they will practice in their workplace, and they'll bring back results for the coaching. So that's that, to me, that's most important. Most important is what happens between the coaching sessions, not inside the coaching sessions. And that's a program that allows companies to provide just better support for their managers. They can find me at Stefan at justpromoted.coach. Actually, it is Stefan at just-promoted.coach, or at LinkedIn. I can be found easily there.
Outstanding. So we're going to go ahead and put links in the show notes for everybody so they can get those resources.
Thank you.
And again, if you don't have a coach, if you do not have a mentor, if you do not have a third party that you can talk to as a new manager, go out and get that today. We're going to have a link here that you can reach out to Stefan. Stefan can help you. As you mentioned, he's got a process there. It's a 4-month process. By the way, I highly recommend you find something like that, get something like that. And if you say, well, I don't know if I can afford it, go tell your boss, I need this program so that I can be more effective as a leader. So go there. Your boss is willing to pay the money. Go get it. Go get that coaching. Be a better boss. Be a better leader. Stefan, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing all of this insight, and thanks for being on the show and sharing, what I think is a really important issue, and that is that transition from new manager to becoming an effective leader. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me, John.
Thanks
it was
again.
A pleasure and honor.
Thanks again. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Backed podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Backed podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.
Hey, it's Tim from 50 Years of Music with 50-Year-Old White Guys, the comedy podcast you had no idea you needed. Join Ben, Jeff, and me as we continue our musical road trip back through the years and around the globe. See, just when you thought all white guys were like Joe Rogan, you come across 3 educators trying to remember when we were cool.
50 Years of Music with 50-Year-Old White Guys.
Electricast.